wonderful episode. I'm freaking exhausted. How are you doing, Wendell?
I'm kind of tired too. It's been a 72-hour.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's been a 72-hour whirlwind of motherboards. I'm so tired I can no longer pronounce words.
I'm so tired I could eat a horse.
That actually does sound delicious. Not a horse though, maybe a bison.
I could go for a bison, not a buffalo. Everyone in America, stop calling them buffalo. I'll slap everybody. I will slap you all. Apple is going to buy Beats for $3.2 million.
$3.2 million. That would be the deal of the century.
Yeah, wouldn't it be? See, that's how tired we are.
Are you in the UK at 3.2 million? Is that what's happening?
3.2 million. Is that what their currency's worth?
No, they're buying Beats for $3.2 billion.
Yeah, that's billion with a. Okay, why are they doing this? Why is this happening, man? You know, they've got their own little streaming service, and I don't keep up with Apple, and I don't really keep up with Beats, but I have recently listened to some Beats headphones because, I mean, as someone who enjoys headphones, Beats come up a lot in conversation, and one of the things that usually happens in conversation, especially if you have someone who says they like audio, it's almost trendy to be like, Beats are trash, they sound like garbage, don't put those on your head. And I talked to somebody and they were like, man, I challenge you to put on a pair of Beats and tell me they're bad. Okay, so I put on a pair of Beats, I put on the best pair of Beats I could find. I forgot the model number, but like the best pair of Beats I could find. Build quality was pretty solid. And they sound like you turned loudness on in your car. I did not like them at all. Just very boomy and, I don't know, crappy. They sound way better than a lot of headphones out there. But, I mean, any person who really values audio was probably not going to buy them. But Apple wants to buy them. Why does Apple want to buy them?
Well, that follows suit with Apple. I mean, we've always said that Apple is about style more than they are about substance. Not to say that their products are without substance. I mean, certainly they are.
Apple's a vapid company.
That might be what we're saying. And so, you know, the mind share here. I mean, Apple is so good at PR that they successfully convince people into thinking that they invented things like high-resolution LCD screens and, you know, multi-finger touchscreen and all this other nonsense.
Wait, no, you forgot the best. Rectangles with curved edges. Before Apple, there were no curved edges on a rectangle. Well, you know something? I don't think there can be curved edges on a rectangle. If you look up the definition of rectangle...
Well, it's a lot of even just the style. I mean, there was a German company called Braun, and a lot of the Apple styling comes from Braun. Now, Braun didn't make computers. They made razors and trash cans and clocks.
And vacuum cleaners and stuff.
Vacuum
right?
cleaners.
Or just like they designed a lot of things.
It was sort of a postmodern thing, and so that's where Apple got a lot of their style. So it makes sense that they would buy Beats, because Beats is more about style. Well, certainly the first set of headphones that were called Beats were complete and utter crap. And you can get laptops with Beats audio, which is by definition a gimmick. Ergo, one should look at this with extra skepticism. Not to say that they're not, they might be not terrible, especially compared to other things that you could do. But I don't know that they're solid audio technology.
Okay, who's going to pay $3.2 billion to get headphones? It's not about the headphones. I don't think that's what's going on right now. I think that it has something to do with the Beats streaming service, you know, because it's kind of competing with the iTunes Radio or whatever that's called, because, you know, Beats, they don't have very many subscribers. Why doesn't Apple go buy Spotify or something? That's what I don't understand. With $3.2 billion, they could, well, they probably need a little bit more than that, but you know what I mean. Why are they getting Beats instead of an actual, you know, service that has members? I mean, 200,000 members is not a lot in the grand scheme of things. We have 75,000 members on our forum. Apple will take 1.75 billion.
What about like Bose? Not because of the Bose audio quality, because I don't know that it's there either. Because it seems like it's a whole like drink the Kool-Aid. And I know about this Walmart debacle where Walmart went to Bose and was like, we just want to license the name. We're going to do everything else.
And Bose said okay.
But you know, could they have bought? You know, but Bose has an IP portfolio. They have a lot of engineering and patents and things like that. Surely something like that would be more useful to Apple.
I don't know. I think Apple's really trying to get the guys on the street, the people on the street, the people watching television, and I don't think Bose is as cool to the kids out there in the pop culture land as Beats is. So maybe they're trying to buy themselves a chunk of pop culture. I don't know what Apple's doing here. $3.2 billion is probably too much to spend on Beats. But hey, I'm glad that it's making Dr. Dre rich.
Bose is for old people.
Is that what it says when you look up Bose
Is
on Wikipedia?
is Dr. Dre going to be a billionaire because of this?
I think Dr. Dre may almost be a billionaire already. He's one hell of a businessman. So, all right, moving on along here. Let's get down into some real hardware. Let's start off by talking about virtual reality. Virtue? Did I say virtue?
We're so tired.
Virtual reality. You know, I'd probably wake back up if I had a beer, but I don't have any more. Oh. So the I don't know, Durovis. See, they're already going to fail. They're already going to fail because the name is a mess. People don't understand how important a strong, easy to say name is. So, Durovis Dive. The Durovis Dive is a VR headset, and you know it's very similar to the Alter Gaze. Now, the Alter Gaze was something that showed up on Kickstarter, and I'll just let this video play here just a bit.
Open source.
Stop that sound. Stop that. So the idea here is that these guys print their own VR thing, and then you stick a phone into it, and that becomes the screen. So the point here with the Alter Gaze was that, I mean, it's very open source. That's what they're going for. Anybody can download the stuff. Anybody can modify it. Anybody can resell it. You know, they're going to get a cut of it, of course. But the idea is you just take your phone, and you know they said every phone has a high resolution screen these days, or most phones, and most phones have all the tools that you need. So you insert that in there, and it adjusts to where it needs to be, and then that becomes your VR headset. Well, they're doing that from an open source standpoint, and now this company, Durovis Dive, is going to be doing this in a very commercial way, and they're going to try to steal the market out from under Alter Gaze's, I guess, I don't know, whatever they have. And I'm really curious about this because I've not been impressed by the Oculus yet, and I don't expect to be impressed by this. But this is a very easy thing to get out there. It's a piece of plastic that you put a phone in, you slap it together, and then it's all about software. So they could develop their own app store with this. And I don't know, this could be a pretty big thing. The idea of putting a phone in front of your face and then using special lenses.
No.
You don't think so?
No, because, okay, problems with this. One, accelerometer in the phone is crap. Two, even if the accelerometer in the phone is not crap, the Oculus people have already figured out that with the best accelerometers, multiple accelerometers, and really fast software, it's not good enough. They've given up, basically, and have external cameras doing head tracking just to be sure. So is it neat? Yeah. Is it kind of gimmicky? Yeah. This is this generation's Virtual Boy, probably.
I don't know. I think it might sell because it's neat and gimmicky. I don't think it's going to be good at all. I think it's going to be crap, and I think after a few months, no one's going to touch it anymore. It's going to be sort of like the Leap Motion. Does anybody touch those things anymore? Remember those little things you get and you wave your hands around and it's like, oh my God, this is cool. Headlines. Everybody buy this crap. And I got it. Oh, $100. I've got one. And it sits there and there's like nobody's making apps for it. And it's just, I don't know what to do with it. Is anyone actually using a Leap that they still bought? I think this is going to be like that. It's going to get a lot of hype, get a bunch of sales on like day 1 and day 10. And then it's going to be put on a shelf and forgotten about.
I built a theremin with my Leap, and I play it every day.
You don't play the theremin every day.
I only know one song, and that's the theme to Star Trek.
That's the only song that should be played on a theremin. Otherwise, you're just making noise. All right, let's move on and let's talk about... well, I guess this is something really for the other version of the tech, but this is Marvell, and judges ordered Marvell to pay Carnegie Mellon $1.54 billion in a patent case, and they also have to give Carnegie Mellon 50 cents for every new, they said hard drive here in this article. I believe it's just some technology on the SATA controller, but correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't know.
Yeah, no, this is really interesting. Basically, a federal judge has ordered Marvell to pay $1.54 billion to CMU, but that was less than half what they were asking for. The CMU was asking for $3.75 billion. So, and on the news, shares in Marvell actually rose a little bit. So I'm not sure what that means. I wouldn't expect that. If Marvell had to pay $3-something billion, that could seriously jeopardize the company's future. Billions of chips may have infringed on the patent. Don't know. But the decision's only a 1-point $5.4 billion, which is survivable, and Marvell's going to appeal. So Marvell in this case argued that a one-time $250,000 payment would cover it, but clearly that didn't play out that way in the court case.
I mean, if they're basing a lot of this decision on 50 cents per implementation, that just shows you how many devices are actually using a Marvell controller. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
Wow. So Marvell's bigger than I thought, that's for sure. I mean, a lot of times we joke around about Marvell. Whenever you see a NIC, you're like, is that a Marvell? Get it off of me. They're like, no, I want the Intel. Or maybe the killer, but probably the Intel if we can get our hands on the Intel.
Marvell makes a lot of integrated circuits, and fact of the matter is Marvell is used in a ton of hard drive controllers, and we see it a lot in flash controllers as well. So Marvell makes a lot of different ICs, and just because we don't prefer the NIC, the Marvell NIC, doesn't mean they don't make a kick-ass flash controller or whatever.
All right, let's talk about Nvidia for just a minute. So they've got their next generation Maxwell that's going to be coming out soon, and so they say it's going to be supporting H.265 right out of the box. Hardware decoding is where it's at. Now, H.264 looks pretty good and the file sizes are pretty decent. H.265 is going to look better and the file sizes are going to be half what they are now, but it's going to require a bit more power when it comes to decoding that. And I mean, really, to do it right, you got to do it at a hardware level for something like this. I mean, you have to have like perfectly nice, smooth playback. 1080p may work just fine, but H.265 supports 8K resolution, so it's a serious thing, and it's going to be a big deal when it comes out. And it's nice to see Maxwell supporting that. So all the devices that use Maxwell will be doing just fine.
It's really, you really got to think about this the right way. So H.265, quality for quality, same amount of information per frame, is half the file size. That's huge. That's a huge breakthrough. 4K is a doubling of resolution in each direction. So effectively, a 4K uncompressed image is 4 times larger than a 1080p uncompressed image, because you've got double the pixels in both directions. With H.265, you can go from 1080p to 4K and only double in file size. That's huge for providers. That's huge for YouTube. That will be huge for Netflix. So seeing this in hardware is very important to making sure that the 4K video playback experience is low CPU utilization, low overhead, and widely deployed and widely prevalent. Otherwise, the inertia of everything under the sun supporting H.264 means that H.264 will be here for 20 years, and that's not good.
One other thing I want to mention about Maxwell is that the TDP on the new GPUs that are based on Maxwell, it's so low. Like I mean, you mentioned this a while back. You said that in the future, we're not just going to measure performance, we're going to measure performance per watt. And right here, we're seeing it with the NVIDIA Maxwell, the performance per watt performance.
The performance per watt metric.
Yeah, it's quite good. Yes, indeed, quite good. Very good indeed.
Well, they're not going to be able to squeeze out more performance if they can't do away with some of the heat, because entropy will do away with you, and/or it can't wait to catch on fire. So, either way, they've got to deal with the energy dissipation one way or the other.
I think they're going to do a pretty good job with this. I can't wait for the new big Maxwell cards to come out whenever they get some big. I don't know, that's fun. Why am I doing this still?
We've got to embiggen the resolution to get more.
All right, let's see here. 3D printers that can build houses. How about some of those? Now, Denmark, they're working on some 3D printers to build houses, and that's going to be a few years off, it looks like. They haven't actually built any yet. But those, the looks of those, more similar to what you would build in like a desktop 3D printer, MakerBot, that sort of thing. They kind of have the plasticky look. And the developers and the builders over in Denmark and that part of the world who are using these machines say that it's, the infrastructure is going to last a lot longer than like our standard brick and mortar stuff. So that's what's going on there. But in China, they're already building these, and I'll go ahead and cut to the article here. And you can build a 3D printed house in 24 hours, and they use waste materials from construction sites and concrete. So it's actually like a concrete gun hooked up to a bunch of motors and stuff. Let me go ahead and play the video with the audio off.
It's a giant MakerBot, but it prints in concrete instead of PLA or ABS plastic.
Yeah, and it's The thing about this is, I know they say it's going to be structurally good and that sort of thing, but my God, these houses are so ugly. I mean, you get the different color concretes. Let's go over here to the end. I don't know. I guess it's nice to have all those windows and stuff, and maybe you could put some like siding on the outside or something. Maybe it's just the edifice there. Look at the just, it looks kind of like the rough edges you get from 3D printing and that sort of thing. It looks like that, but in concrete with all the little gunks and stuff. I'm complaining for no reason because it's kind of cool that they're able to build things that quickly. I just miss the Masonic age, man, when people used to go there and carve statues of gargoyles versus demons on the side of a building or whatever. Back when there used to be some art to the artisan stuff.
Well, with increasing population, having a low-cost housing option for homeless people or, people that are destitute or can't afford a house or something like that, this is not bad. I mean, if you could, 3D print a shelter for somebody or 3D print somebody a perfect house, and I'm not going to go off on some sort of social welfare tangent, but something like this can really make the difference, in terms of quality of life and in terms of a second chance to, get started and do stuff. And in China, with their population, this is probably a really good thing for, the really poor areas, and we could use some of that here. I mean, we've got tons of homeless in cities and things like that. It's like, well, we can just hit a button and print a house out of concrete. That seems like a good idea.
Well, what we could do? We could just let them live in all these homes that are sitting on the side of the street empty. All the vacant houses from the housing collapse. Be like, all right, guys, we screwed up. Just erase everything. Go get a house. Go pick a house. That'd be fun.
It's funny you joke about that, but New York City will actually, like, if you're homeless and you go and you apply and you just fill out a one-page form, they literally will buy you a bus ticket to somewhere else. So it's like, if you're homeless in New York City, go tell them you want to move to Detroit. You can buy a house for $1. I guess that's maybe an option.
Yeah, but what the problem with moving to Detroit is right now? I know there's like everyone's leaving Detroit and everything's gone. Recently, the Detroit, I forgot if it was the Congress or the Senate, or I don't know what happened. No, it was the whole government. I don't even know what regulatory body now said that they can't own chickens and goats anymore. There's like all these rules unless there's like not a house within 13 square miles or 1.3 square miles or something weird like that. They're making it very, very hard for everyone to garden because in the city everyone was just gardening like crazy and doing all these cool farm hack type things and building weird shelves and stuff, so they're making it very difficult for the people. So don't go to Detroit if you want to grow your own food. That was my hippie for a minute came out. Just had to do that. But yeah, you know what I think would be really fun? You just say first come, first serve on all the houses. Go. And then
it's still Detroit.
It's survival of the fittest.
I'm sorry. There's like one guy that's watching right now, and he's in Detroit, and he's like, well, I want to be mad at you guys, but basically you're right, so I guess I can't be mad. So kudos to you, guy. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, one guy. I think we have more than one guy watching in Detroit, I hope. Maybe.
No, everyone else left.
One guy that's left.
Have you seen RoboCop? I mean, that's basically how it went down.
The new one?
No, the old one where it's like OCP owns Detroit, and I don't know.
My brain went. See, I'm so tired. My brain went to ICP. I was like, insane clown posse.
Well,
what are they doing in Detroit?
That would be the city council in Detroit.
And the whole city is just full of their drones.
Didn't you see the Reddit post? It was I think Juggalos versus Bronies that went down in Detroit.
Are you serious? You're not joking, are you?
I'm only about 70% joking, unfortunately.
Let's talk about. Let's elevate the conversation and talk about Google and their stuff. I don't know if that's an elevatory topic. Elevatory, is that a word?
No, it's not.
Let's talk about elevatory themes here on the tech. All right, so Google, they have now integrated Uber into Google Maps. Uber is something that they've invested a lot in, and it's a service that allows you to essentially call up a car. If you open up the app, here's where this differs from like a standard taxi service. You open up the app, and you can see where the cars are in your area. So you're able to call, hey, there's a car right here. Let's just grab that car, and you tap on the car or whatever. And I haven't used it yet because I don't live in a place where I need it. But the people in cities, hopefully I'm being accurate right now. Anyway, it allows you to call up a car. So now you open up Google Maps, and it's another way to travel. You know, you get by plane, by foot, by canoe or whatever. You know, all the different lists of drop-down things. And now you can travel by Uber. So you bring that up, and it'll show you where the cars are right on Google Maps. So what's Google up to here? Now, Motherboard, they're speculating that Google is thinking about integrating this now so that the technology is already in place, and then working together with Uber to put robots behind the wheel, or self-driving cars. And then when you open up your Google Maps, you'll be able to call up a self-driving car, take you to where you want to go, safer, quicker, easier, smarter, cheaper.
Of course, the sort of pessimist in me thinks that the incredibly wealthy are going to get the self-driving, Maseratis first. Like, that's going to be the first model or whatever. And so you get the self-driving Maserati. So the self-driving Maserati drops you off, and then the super wealthy is like, yeah, just circle the block until I'm done doing whatever my thing is. So we're going to go from gridlock to insane, crazy gridlock, because all these wealthy people are going to have their driverless cars just driving around randomly because they don't want to, get a parking place, and they don't want anywhere to park, or they'll have their car parked 17 miles away. So it'll just be an insane gridlock of crazy. But Uber, something happened in Australia. Australia is really, like, at the country level, I think, is really cracking down on individual to individual things like Uber. And so I'm really interested to see how that sort of plays out, because the cab companies and things like that, things like Uber, make them really nervous because it sort of upsets their apple cart.
Airbnb as well.
Airbnb as well.
A hotel room just by contacting someone who has a spare room in their house or their apartment, reading some reviews. That's also getting a lot of flack in places like New York City and several other places in the country. People hate it when you cut out the middleman and start doing things in a person-to-person way.
Not people, incumbents. Incumbents hate it.
Yes, not people, yes.
The people who are the middlemen hate it and will campaign. Now, you can make the safety arguments and things like that. Like, is it safe to have one of the people, the Tom Hanks movie, The Burbs, having that guy pick you up in his, 76 Pacer? That's probably not a good idea. But the reality is that probably doesn't really, and it's like somebody drives up and it's like, that's probably not a good idea.
I don't know. I'm all for the self-driving cars. I think that it's going to allow a lot of people to do away with their vehicles, and then they could just rely on services like Uber and that sort of thing. I mean, what if, 20 years down the road, all we have are self-driving hover cars, and we don't have to worry about it. There's just usually a hover car around when you need it, and you just press a button and it comes, and you just step inside, and you can sit in the back and use all of your attached devices or implanted devices. That
is definitely a future we should work toward.
Yeah. We'll get to some implants here in just a minute. The first transistors have been made out of the 2D materials like graphene. So that is a good. I'm not going to really dwell on this too much. We've talked about graphene quite a bit, but graphene could be a breakthrough material for the production of semiconductors and who knows what else, computers, as bigger picture. But yeah, this could be the breakthrough we've needed. We've relied on silicon for quite a while.
Assuming that carbon nanotubes and graphene are not this generation's asbestos, it really does seem like the holy grail of materials.
Yep. So, and now that they're actually making the first transistors, that's really cool. And then last week we talked about, I believe it was in Ireland. I believe it was last week. I just believe a lot of things. We talked about them making a breakthrough where they can now mass produce this. So it could be pretty cool.
That was when they put it in a kitchen blender.
Yeah, they were like, just put it in a blender and it's okay. Now we can make it available to the masses. Kitchen blender.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. How about? I guess we're talking about science now. How about some substances that are stronger and harder than diamonds? Would you like that? I don't know. What about the guy who owns the stone store? Would he like that?
No.
It's going to devalue his diamonds, you think? So I'm not sure.
That's De Beers. De Beers is like, oh, we must have this. But it's a naturally occurring thing, apparently. It just occurs in very small amounts.
Wurtzite boron nitride.
Yes.
And what's the other one is Lonsdaleite, I believe. There's two different substances.
We don't have any idea how to pronounce these.
I just said it correctly. I'm positive. If I said it, it was correct, and they should change it.
So now we need to mass produce these. See, we can mass produce diamonds for a long time now, but De Beers doesn't want you to know that.
Because they've got them all in lockers somewhere. They're in safekeeping. All their blood diamonds are hiding in an underground vault somewhere. And if they were to trickle out into the markets, diamonds would be not worth as much. Put your money into silver.
Well, that's being kept artificially low by, other people. We need a financial tech. It's like, check out this conspiracy theory where things are happening because HSBC's at it again, and that's another show.
We'll have the finance tech. We'll have the tech, which is this one. And then
they're selling silver certificates like as if it's silver bullion in order to keep the silver bullion price down. That's artificial manipulate. Yeah.
Oh, how about one on like supervolcanoes and geology and all that stuff called tectonics? Or maybe that would be on beer.
No.
Tectonic?
No.
Would you guys drink tectonic?
No.
What if it was... Never mind. It's the Jesus juice, man. Where were we? Okay, so these elements are extremely strong. Now, I'm going to say this again. I'm probably going to say this incorrectly. Wurtzite boron nitride is really strong, and here's what it does. The atoms actually rearrange themselves when under pressure to, better, I guess, absorb that pressure. So that's kind of cool.
It's almost like it's a structure that's like it folds, and so compressing it just causes it to fold in more, and so as it folds, the structure of the lattice means that more points touch, and so it folds in closer and closer and closer, kind of like crumpling aluminum foil. So you've got aluminum foil and you crumple it up in a ball, and then you squeeze it, and the more you squeeze it, the harder it is to squeeze it in more, just because the foil's getting so close together. Except instead of being a random, folded thing here, this is actually like a lattice structure. So it's almost like a solar cell, like the solar cells that are packed in for satellites, and so they basically unfold in space, or you compress them down. It's really sort of an interesting geometric shape that this material takes on, and I'm honestly kind of surprised that no one had modeled this in a computer before to work this out. So this discovery may lead to more discoveries, because somebody is going to say, hey, we should take all this and model it in a computer and find out what sort of structure will have these same sort of organizational properties. It really is surprising that this wasn't modeled in the computer more recently. And so I think that a lot of analysts are going to be looking at this, looking for other minerals, other sort of molecular arrangements that may be harder than diamond as well.
Well, one thing that is interesting in regard to what you just said, in order to actually analyze this stuff, they're going to have to break this down and analyze single crystals of each material, and there's no known ways to isolate, single crystals from those materials right now. So it's going to be really difficult for them to completely verify it, because they need to do more tests to make sure that what their findings here are completely accurate. But it does look like we have a new hardest material. All right, let's talk about outer space. NASA may be putting greenhouses on Mars in 2021, and the reason they're going to be doing this is because if in the future we plan to colonize Mars and go up there and dig holes in the ground and stuff, we're going to have to make sure that stuff can grow there. So this will be an experiment just to see if plants can grow on Mars. Kind of interesting. And I think Elon Musk has been sort of interested in this as well. I wouldn't put it past him for him to try to do something like this by 2017 or something like this. I don't know. That would be interesting. To be like, oh, NASA's doing it by 2021. Yeah, I kind of want to get up there on Mars and get my lake house going. Man, to do that, I'm going to need lakes and plants. So
this is really just creating an environment atmospherically that they can put a plant in the soil and see what happens. And so, are there nutrients in the soil? Will a plant germinate? This is a really cool experiment.
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably have to put the nutrients there themselves. I mean, I'm not sure what would be there. Minerals, maybe. Who knows? All right, brain implants. Let's talk about brain implants, shall we? So there's an article here, kind of an interesting article on Business Insider, and it's talking about the future of brain implants. Right now, it kind of sets the groundwork. There's brain implants already installed, and a lot of people. There's like cochlear implants. So if you're deaf and you're someone who qualifies, you can go in and you can get an implant, and it will allow you to hear. It's not gonna be the same kind of hearing that you have normally, but you are going to be able to hear something. It's interesting. And then on top of that, there's also some vision implants, and again, they are not going to restore vision magically at this point. But people are saying that right now, the state of brain implants is about where laser eye surgery was in like the 20 years ago. So the future of this could get very interesting, and also thanks to like initiatives like I believe Obama has a really big initiative right now. He's trying to map the brain. We talked about this with Michio Kaku, but I like to bring this up again because it's fun to speculate on some of the things that could happen with brain implants. I think brain implants are going to be a real thing. I think they're coming, and I think we should be cognizant of it. You get it? Yeah, I had to. So here's some of the things that the author here on Business Insider is thinking are going to happen. It's going to make us better at math and navigation. Matrix-like auto-learning. That could be interesting. Auto-learning.
I think first we're going to see memory augmentation.
Just so people could like bring up old memories and that sort of thing, or do you mean like so that they can implant false memories into your brain?
No, I think it's going to be a thing where it's like, oh, I need to remember this, or I need to memorize this, and they'll just blink and it'll be right there, and then to access it, it'll be a purely neurological thing. Just like you have your inner dialogue and your inner conversation, they'll probably figure out somewhere in the brain they could stick an electrode that would let you have sort of an inner mouse cursor and keyboard, so that you could use an interface like that. I mean, honestly, that's probably the most practical thing. We could see this kind of technology before we see true artificial intelligence, and that would be the thing where it gets really interesting, because imagine a sociopathic CEO that had the number crunching ability and the cognitive abilities of something like IBM's Watson. And so you get a sociopathic CEO that runs a company that plugs themselves into something like Watson. They could do a lot of damage with that. But by the same token, you could have a scientist who solves fusion or something like that, being able to have perfect recall and perfect analytical capabilities and things like that. But I don't know. I mean, certainly we're going to see that in our lifetime, which is really exciting. But I don't know that we would see true artificial intelligence before something like that. This actually, the technology could lead us to artificial intelligence, where it's like, oh, we figure out what consciousness is by having enough of these probes in the brain.
Well, here's another idea. They said that it could be used maybe to improve your mood. So what if you just have people like, I don't know, like in Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, or people just sitting around all day dialing 104? Like, hey.
Yeah, that could actually happen, which is a little horrifying.
Don't dial 104 at my house.
Maybe don't dial 104 73 times a day either, because I mean, my God. It's like, I don't even, it's like, no, just let's just no. But it's
people laughing at this right now. They have no idea what we're talking about.
It's totally going to happen that way. I mean, think about when this kind of technology comes to the unwashed masses. I mean, it comes on QVC and they're like, you just order this, it'll be fine. And then somebody tells somebody else and they order it, and then there's just a sea of people that are dialing 104 all day, every day. It's going to be really bad. It's at that point society implodes and the planet dies.
Well, one other interesting use for this, I mean, right now they're using them to control like robotic arms and stuff like that. That you may also be able to get an implant to control your surroundings, like turn on you walk into a room, like just think of this: walk into a room, lights come on, computer comes on. Who needs NFC? Who needs NFC anymore? I've got a brain implant that takes care of all that, and I've got a few robots, right? So I'm like, robot, bring me my whatever. Don't need a dog anymore. Do you guys abuse your dog and make him bring you things out of the fridge? Well, you don't need that anymore. You can have your robot, Cheryl.
That is kind of sinister. I mean, what if your dog had a brain implant and you could talk to your dog directly, through your brain? That would be kind of weird. Like you could force your will on your dog through your implant.
Wait a minute. You just explained aliens. They weren't born with telepathic powers. They implanted them.
No.
All right. So I think we've crossed some kind of weird threshold here that we shouldn't have. Let's talk about killer robots now. we'll talk about that in relation to brain implants in just a second. But killer robots are actually going to be discussed and debated at the UN. We have a couple of important people talking about them. So we're going to use just a second of this to talk about them. It looks like a lot of people in general think that robots, killer robots, may be able to make better decisions than human beings when it comes to, picking out the right target and shooting them. And it is true that right now, we already have drones doing stuff like this. Are we just not? I guess drones are already shooting people, right? Unmanned drones, but
yes.
They're still controlled by a person who presses a button, right? They're not like.
Well, but see the quote.
Autonomous or
the quote here, the thing to drive home is that we are already. The former director was we are already using metadata to kill people or to make the decision to kill people, and so that is the takeaway from this. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a human being pulling the trigger, but the analysis that goes into pulling the trigger comes from metadata. And this is, psychologists have already done this experiment. It's like there's a guy in a room and you press a button and the guy in the room screams, and it's like you really need to just keep pressing the button even though you hear somebody screaming. And it's like just to see how far people will press the button. And in the experiment, people just kept on pressing the button like there was no problem. And the psychologists were like, "Oh God, this is horrifying. Effectively you're torturing somebody, but somebody's like, no, this is fine. You just keep pressing the button. It'll be totally fine." That's the drone operators. I mean, that is this experiment that was done, I think, in like the 60s. That's the drone operators in a place that's just a video game. It's just a thing on a screen. Just press the button, keep it blowing up. You're not supposed to think about it. And if you do think about it, they'll take you off that job and put you on something else.
Okay, so what if there is no human intervention? What if the drones make the decisions on their own? I think they'll do a better job of being like, children, no. And then, you don't think they'll do a better job?
No, because the software is not sophisticated enough to do that. And having software do it completely is only an opportunity to bury it so far away from the light and so far away from anybody that might do any kind of auditing on it to see if it's any good.
Who's at fault? And if anything does go wrong, just be like, all you have to say is the software malfunctioned, and magically, who's at fault now?
You've seen like the zero tolerance policies in schools where it's like, somebody takes one aspirin and they're expelled from school because,
don't do drugs.
Zero tolerance or whatever. So it's like, well, we're just following the rules. It's like, the software was just doing its thing. We didn't have anything to do with it. It's, honestly, that is no excuse. That is no way to run a society.
I think that killer drones are going to happen. I think they're going to debate it for a little while. And here's what the UN can debate things all they want. The other countries are just going to do it. Probably the U.S. Probably the U.S. is going to be like, we're going to do it. Get ready. And the UN's going to be like, you probably shouldn't do that. We already did it. Now figure it out. That's. I think we're an aftermath society. We're like, here is some aftermath for you guys. Have fun.
It's definitely. It's not a clear-cut decision. I mean, there are nuances. There are certain cases where you could maybe make the argument that having that kind of technology is useful for the overall preservation of life. But you really, really have to weigh each and every decision consciously and deliberately. And it is nothing that can be, it's not a decision that you can make in 30 seconds or 5 minutes or an hour or even 10 hours or a day. You really have to put a lot of thought into those kind of decisions. And war has become such a routine operation that's what my concern is more than anything, more than the technology.
We kind of got into something a little bit more political than I thought we were going to get into in this episode. I mean, it's killer robots, so you got to kind of talk about it. So I want to say sorry to all the guys who tune in, hoping that we're not going to get into anything political. We'll get back to ponies and graphics cards. All right, right now let's talk about video gaming, and let's talk about Xbox. Microsoft, the CEO, Bill Gates, former CEO Bill Gates, he said that he would totally support Satya Nadella if he decided to sell off the Xbox division. He didn't, he didn't come out and say he thinks they should do it, but I think it's interesting that he said that he's okay if they sell it. Now, the Xbox division is actually profitable right now, and it's actually bringing in, recurring money from all the people who are dumb enough to pay for the yearly subscription. It's free on PC, guys. All right, that's enough of that, Master Race. And I think it's very interesting that he said he would absolutely, quote unquote, support Satya Nadella if they chose to sell it. So that, just him saying that makes me think that, okay, they're inside of Microsoft. There's some speculation here. Why would they sell Xbox? That's what I don't understand. Why would they even be speculating, or why would there even be any talks going on about this?
I think sell in this case means that they would
spin off, maybe.
They would spin it off and it would be its own division, and that would give it the flexibility to do whatever it wants without sort of being under the thumb. But I think Microsoft would remain in control or direct influence, or however you want to call it, or however you want to look at that. But I think it might also be true because Bill Gates is a sly businessman. He's like, oh yeah, I would totally support him if he would do that. But he's never going to do that because we already talked about it and we worked out a plan. So, but
he's showing how much he supports his new CEO decision.
Yes. So I think it may be more about that than Xbox specifically. I too would be really surprised if Microsoft sells off this division. But I could see them restructuring management to give the Xbox division more flexibility, because I don't think that they feel like that they've got enough of a lead over PS4 to be where they want to be. And so it's like, well, how do they get there? And maybe flexibility and nimbleness is how they get there. Maybe.
It's kind of an interesting time right now. The global PC game revenue has surpassed console game revenue. That's pretty awesome. And still nobody's playing their games. They're just buying them up. You guys can't. Nobody can help it. I can't help it.
Isn't that the best situation to be in? Some people are giving you money and expect nothing. I mean, isn't that what business, American capitalist is all about? I don't know.
I want to play. I love these games. I'm going to give them money. I don't have time to play them though. But yeah, apparently, a lot of the reason for this, it could be League of Legends and games like Dota. There's an in-game store. I mean, that counts toward the revenue. Of course, paying to buy a game kind of counts toward the revenue, but there's a lot of like MMOs. There's a lot of money coming in, and there's a lot of the PC is still the pioneering platform, and it's the platform that makes all the games for the other platforms. But I guess the question here that the writer on Forbes is asking is, how long should the consoles even keep fighting?
Now, we would be remiss if we didn't point out that this number is kind of misleading a little bit. But not really. It's talking about non-console game sales, but things like tablet game sales, I think, are counted as PC sales. In one paragraph, it reads like it is counted, and in another paragraph, it reads like it's not counted. So I'm not really sure what that means, but some of the titles that it names specifically are available on PC and iPad as well. So you could play it on a Surface tablet, and you could play it on an iPad. Clearly, it's not the same game because there's orders of magnitude more horsepower in a Surface tablet from Microsoft than there is in an iPad. But I think in terms of dollars and revenue, it would be important to look at this and separate out mobile gaming and tablet gaming and just see how that stacks up. But clearly, consoles, which are single-use devices, are losing out. Tablets are multi-use. PC is multi-use. It can be a productivity device as well as a gaming device. It maybe makes sense that you don't buy a console just for gaming. And so from a consumer electronics standpoint, if you think about it in those terms, yeah, console,
Well, see, the other thing you mentioned, the tablets and phones and that sort of thing, they're multi-use devices, but they're also devices that you can upgrade but still play all your same games because it's a platform, you know what I mean?
Yep.
You're on a platform, and all the devices, they don't care what they are. As long as they're on that platform, you can get a newer device, a faster device, a device with a better GPU, a device with a better CPU, the newest Snapdragon, whatever you want. So I think the consoles, this is the last generation we're going to see. The next, type things are going to be stuff that integrates with your television set, Android devices that integrate with your television set, streaming services,
I think
stuff
that's
like that.
I think
that's where we're headed.
I think that's actually probably. I mean, on the one hand, that's true in reality right now, but I think in terms of like phones and tablets as a 10-year platform, ultimately that will be completely untrue, because I'm sure that there exists a game for like iOS 4 on iPad 1 that was, the company went out of business and it was never ported to iOS 6 on iPad Air or whatever. And so we as consumers have no ability, short of jailbreaking and having the source code to the game and running an emulator, which is not even a thing, to be able to run those games. Whereas even on DOS with things like Monkey Island, you know, there have been huge movements in the open source community and in the gaming community to write emulators and to make sure that you could run those ancient, you know, DOS games on PC. And that has not happened yet in the phone and mobile ecosystem. And so, yeah, right now it's you know, if you've got a game for Android 2, it might be sketchy on Android 4. Probably the iOS part of the equation is there's hardly any games that would fit that criteria. It's probably complete outlier, but on the 10-year time scale, that's probably not going to be true.
Let's check out some Unreal Tournament 4 projects that are going on. A lot of the people that have gotten their hands on this, instead of creating a new game, what they've done is they've gone back to their favorite games and created some environments from those games. Basically, I think a lot of this is they're using it as a learning experience, you know, because instead of creating your first game with a new platform or a platform that you're not entirely familiar with, I'm sure it's very similar to the Unreal Engine 3. But this is kind of cool. Someone has created the Temple of Time from The Legend of Zelda here, and they've done it in the Unreal Engine 4, and it is glorious. And it's only 720p, but
it really does look like the most amazing thing ever.
Yeah, this is a pretty damn. It's just play all these things. Yeah, there we got Deus Ex, we got BioShock on the Unreal Engine 4.
Nintendo, make it happen. We're calling you out.
Man,
probably some open source people is like, you got the Nintendo 64, you know, Ocarina of Time. Yeah, it's like, all right, well, run this command on it, it'll recompile it into Unreal Engine 4, and you got to have all these texture packs and things like that. That would be awesome. I mean, can you imagine Skyrim style mods for Ocarina of Time? That would be crazy.
I'm playing all these videos at the same time because I'm crazy. Mass Effect import test. A lot of even import assets and that sort of thing. And this is just a ballroom test from Unreal Engine 4, but people are doing some pretty amazing things with this.
I really like the some of the features, like the feature demos, like the roughness mask and how they make the textures of things look more realistic by making them look organic, by basically making them look imperfect.
Similar to bump mapping, but a little nicer.
It's the difference between whatever they're doing here and bump mapping is like the difference between, I don't know, 3DFX Voodoo 2 and, you know, I don't know, a Titan.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome looking. All right, Codemasters, they're the makers of some games. They say they're going to be bringing everything over to them. They make like a bunch of racing games, like Dirt. I think they make a click on them right here. I don't play their games, but I know a lot of you guys do Grid. I was right with Dirt. Yes, I was. They make Grid. They also make Grid 2. They make Grid and Grid 2.
We like reporting on Linux gaming because we hold out hope, but the reality is that it's pretty bad right now. And SteamOS hopefully will change that. It's still pretty bad.
I don't think SteamOS is going to do too awful much. I mean, it's kind of weird. I feel like, at first, I felt like it was like a good idea because it was going to like get console gamers to get a Steam box. But now I feel like their initiative is something like, hey, gamers that are sitting at your computer, you know you can go hang out in the living room. I was like, I don't want to go to the living room. Why would I want to go to the living room? I've got all my tools right here. I don't want to go to the freaking living room. This chair is great. I paid $900 for this chair. My couch is $200 because I want to be in this chair. Okay, Gabe? Stop trying to make me like it. I mean, I think it's cool and all that, but just give me a full operating system instead of that. I don't want Steam Big Picture and that's it. Yeah, but SteamOS is cool still for some unknown reason. I don't know. Nintendo's making a new cheap console, and they're looking at emerging markets like India and China where the middle class is growing. Can you imagine? Places where the middle class is growing?
So what they're gonna do? Well, womp womp womp. Because the middle class is shrinking in America because it's moving all to the upper rich class.
Yeah. Because screw poor people. This is kind of interesting. I'll be on the lookout for that. All right, I brought this up. I'm going to read this on my own because I haven't read this, but I wanted to read about this game. So this article's not for anybody else. It's just on the screen right now. I had it open. But yeah, you guys can go read it too if you want. If you're interested in a game that's samurai type ninja stuff.
Is this the gamer with killed you with a wheel thing?
Oh, I got rid of the gamer that killed you with a wheel thing because it's been like a few days. It's probably old news by now. The guy using a racing wheel.
It's only got 389,000 views, but so yeah, it's like
all of our audience has probably seen that, right?
So it's a guy that's got a steering wheel and he's playing an FPS with a steering wheel and killing people. He's reasonably good at it, which I don't even.
The video was too edited for my taste.
Yeah, that's true.
He's showing all of his kills, but he didn't show all the times he died miserably.
I think this might be like a 9 out of 10 troll. I don't think this would. It's the best kind of troll where you have to actually set up a steering wheel and set up an FPS and spend some time, learning it and seeing if it's any good. And then after you've spent 8 or 10 hours doing this, it's like, oh, I got trolled. So it's the best kind of troll.
I want to see the guy, if he's going to do this, I want to see him play an entire match, and I want to see the entire match unedited. Then I'll be like, whoa, that's crazy. And I want to see him get a couple kills here and there or whatever. Not going to happen. Whenever I see any highlight videos from Quake or any game, and it's just like a montage of some guy taking like really great shots, he could have recorded that over a period of a year, and that was the 5 like awesome headshots that he got during the year. I want to see the entire match, and then I'm impressed. You get like 9 railgun shots in a row, then we'll talk. All right. That's probably enough of this. I'm exhausted. We were exhausted yesterday, but we just kept working. It was like 3 in the morning when we finished that live stream.
Yeah.
Got up this morning, took JJ to the airport, and been working ever since.
Yeah, you guys, because this is the hardware tech, we've got an insane amount of motherboard hardware coming up for Z97, so be sure to look out for those videos there.
Also, that Helix, let me see that thing.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to be a lot of fun. We got this coming up soon. We got, you want to build your own router, and you want to build something that's small and schmexy. Schmexy, is that a word?
No.
I think it should be.
You should link to the old Alix video.
Yeah, the PFSense video. It's not Alix, it's just PFSense. Like, build your own router. Like, we made an old video. It's got quite a few hits, but it's just, some ideas on how to take old hardware you have and build a really awesome router for the house. But if you want a device that really does it right like this thing is loaded.
That is an APU.
Yeah, tiny little APU. We've got 3 gigabit LAN ports on the back. And we've got an SD slot. We also have a SIM card. No, is that a SIM?
SIM
4G,
card,
yeah. SIM card for 4G.
2 gigs of RAM or 4. It's available with 2 or 4.
This thing's pretty awesome.
It is very awesome.
So we're going to use this to build either PFSense box or an OpenWRT box.
Or OpenWRT is not quite ready. It may be IP Fire, which is a Linux distribution. And the Linux distribution will let you have onboard Wi-Fi better than PFSense does.
Yeah, because PFSense is BSD.
Yeah, the BSD Wi-Fi driver is not really that great. We need to source
a bunch of BSD.
Well, I mean, it's like, yeah, it is a bunch of BSD. We need they make PCIe MIMO multi-in, multi-out AC cards. So we need to get 1 or 2 of those and put in there and see how it does.
So all that will be coming soon. And we also have a new shooting mechanism that we'll let you guys see pretty soon. All right, guys. Click on all these links over here. Thanks for being awesome. A lot of cool things to come. But first, I'm going to take a nap. See you guys later.